Do you still exist?" I was astounded by what I saw when I went to my son's residence. I gasped when I was met with a startling sight at my son's home. My 5-year-old granddaughter was gone and found there in the living room, malnourished and shackled. The room was filled with abandoned plastic bottles and empty bread bags. I hurried to offer him water in my hurry, but he angrily objected, saying, "Give it to my sister first." "Your sibling? Who is she?" Perplexed, I inquired. Then I heard a baby's weak screams coming from a corner of the room. Before long, the startling reality was revealed. I made up my mind to punish the hell out of whoever it was who made my grandchild go through this. "Would you like to lend me money once more?" I sounded off over the phone to my kid in a frustrated tone. "Ah, my spouse died when I was 62 years old, and it has been 3 years. I've been living alone ever since. I have not had any financial troubles because I have worked for a long time, and because my spouse left me a sizable legacy. But for now, my son Ethan, who moved out already, is my biggest worry. Even as a working adult, he has always been irresponsible. He frequently demonstrated bad work ethics, carried work-related materials home, and slept in excessively. His work history was characterized by frequent job changes and sporadic requests for financial assistance. Even though I was disappointed in my own kid, I couldn't give up on him entirely because of my familial ties. Suddenly one day, Ethan and a woman arrived at our house. "I'm going to marry this girl, Mom." Startled, I welcomed the attractive young woman. "Hello, I'm Isla," I answered. "Isla, nice to meet you." However, getting hitched so quickly, it surprises me. Ethan, who was chewing gum, laughed. "So, what are your options if you become pregnant?" She then said, "I'm 4 months pregnant," and gave her tummy a little pat. Despite my amazement, I managed to offer my congratulations and bid my son and his spouse farewell. Pregnancy, despite the altered order, is a pleasant event. I'm wondering if they too are capable of raising a child correctly, as I will soon have a grandson. I felt conflicted. When I finally went to see Ethan and his family at their house, I was shocked. The inside appeared to have been looted by a thief. There were cup noodle cups and empty convenience shop meal containers all over the place. I was left thinking, what on earth is this mess? Aaron, are you eating healthily? Now it's more than just your body. I purchased some veggies. Should we prepare food together? My daughter-in-law, who had a somewhat bigger tummy, twisted her face in response. "Ugh, cooking is such a hassle," she shot back. Ethan snarled in, just as I was starting to reply, "But you need proper nutrition," adding that an obnoxious mother-in-law who constantly nags won't be like, quit picking on my wife. That's not what I intend to accomplish. I brought some veggies, and Isla pushed them toward me. "I really don't need this kind of thing, so please don't make needless comments," she continued. "You really irritate me." That day I had no alternative but to silently withdraw under their scathing condemnation. When the time came for her to give birth, the two of them came to show me the child. My expression softened as I gazed at my grandchild swaddled in a blanket. How sweet. Is it a boy? I take it? What is his name? Liam is his name. However, don't you have something to offer us, Mom? Oh yeah, you're correct. It's a modest present for the new baby. I gave the envelope to her. Isla grabbed it quickly and looked inside. Tom, look inside. There's $1,300, she cried out. My youngster smiled. Fantastic. Perhaps I should pamper myself. I attempted to advise my son and daughter-in-law to put the money toward the baby's expenses, but it didn't appear like they were paying attention. My son then turned to face me. You know, Mom, it's getting tight in here with the baby and everything. We are considering moving into your empty house. I had recently moved into a moderately priced apartment from the house my husband and I had been living in. We were debating whether to sell the house or rent it out at the moment. Money is undoubtedly needed to raise children, and maybe having a home would allow for more carefree parenting. Thinking about that, I gave a nod. I comprehend. You are free to occupy the space and pay no rent. My youngster said, "I'm grateful. Should we relocate the next month?" But Isla, who had listened to all of this, said something. "But please don't come to our house," she pleaded to me. I stumbled, surprised, saying, "Huh?" "Please leave us alone. We don't want any interference," Ethan went on. "I comprehend," I answered. As a result, I was only able to go to my son and daughter-in-law's home when I had serious issues. When I would sometimes get in touch with them to arrange a meal, they grudgingly gave me permission to meet Liam. However, it was obvious that they valued their privacy. My youngster was nevertheless developing nicely, and had even begun referring to me as Grandma. However, I got a message from my son shortly before Liam turned 4 years old, as usual, when I texted him to tell him I wanted to deliver Liam's food. "Isla no longer wants to see you," he remarked. "Please stop doing this and avoid visiting our home. You are unable to enter because we changed the locks." His biased remark shocked me and made me upset. However, I opted to watch the scenario for a little in case I accidentally insulted Isla without recognizing it. But in the process, I lost track of when I should have been at my son's place and eventually stopped attending entirely. Every now and again, for whatever reason, I would get hesitant, terse answers from Ethan. "Liam is 5 years old already, is he not? I'm hoping he's doing okay." I carried on with my lonely life in spite of my concerns. Then one day I received a call from an unknown number. The guy on the other end replied, "I'd like to request repayment of your son's debt," when I answered. After some further discussion, I realized that my son had unilaterally added me as a co-guarantor. Even though I had previously been requested for financial assistance, I never anticipated something like this. I tried to get in touch with Ethan right away, but I got no answer. Normally, I would hear back after a while, but this time was not like that. I went to my son's residence, frustrated. I hit the intercom button, but nobody picked up. I phoned several times, but the line never went through. Everything stayed the same, even when I shifted the times of my trips. This continued for a few days before I started to worry. Is it possible that they vanished? In what location are they? I looked around for any hints. Ethan had quit, they told me when I went to his place of employment. The neighbors had no idea where they were either. It was already a full week after my first visit. I thought about calling the police, but I thought I should try their residence one more time first. I hit the intercom button, but nothing came out. It was locked, and I could not open the front door. I sighed and turned to go when I heard a soft thump coming from within the home. It seemed like something had moved. In desperation, I cried out, "Is there anyone inside? Please reveal your face." However, no one replied. But I was attracted by the noises coming from within, and I wondered if I might enter the home somehow. At that point, I became aware of something I hadn't seen before. The casement window by the garden was open with its lock. I went in nervously and saw something that made me scream in terror. My 5-year-old grandson Liam was crouching and shackled in such position. "Are you still here?" I cried out and hurried over to his side. The chamber smelled like rot, and all around Liam were strewn plastic bottles and empty bread bags. "Grandma, did you come to rescue me?" he said. "What in the world is going on here?" "Let's get you some water first." I ran to get some water and tried to give it to Liam, who was still in his chain. Then he said, "Give it to my sister first, though." "Your sibling? Who is your sibling?" A weak cry came from the corner of the room the following instant. I dropped the cup I was carrying by accident when I looked in that direction. I was shocked to see a baby, maybe 3 months old, lying there. I was more shocked to learn of this baby's existence than I was by the upsetting image of my grandson Liam. Liam looked frail, as did the infant. I took off Liam's chain in a desperate attempt to assist him, put the infant in the car, and drove to the hospital. The findings of the examination showed that both of them were malnourished. "May I inquire about the circumstances?" the doctor said. I hadn't been in contact with my son and daughter-in-law in a while, so I was unable to reply. After a few days of hospitalization for Liam and the infant, the police showed up on the basis of a report from the hospital. I told the cops straight out that my son and my daughter-in-law were gone. Many questions were posed to Liam, who was on IV fluids, but he seemed too terrified to respond. "Where are Mom and Dad?" I asked my granddaughter, who was acting much more at ease after the cops had departed. They declared they were heading overseas. After packing their large luggage, they departed. What? Liam started talking about the incident in short bursts. My granddaughter Ella was born around 4 months ago. Liam took care of her, having been trained to make milk and change diapers. And then there was a disturbing revelation. "We'll keep you tethered to your sister's care so you won't escape before leaving on a trip," Liam was informed. I was warned not to answer the doorbell, even if it rings. My grandson started crying as I stood there, speechless and hiding my lips. Ella had mastered the art of rolling over, and she succeeded in slipping past Liam during one of his naps. My granddaughter, shaking with fear, admitted, "I was scared and I didn't know what to do." I squeezed his hand, and he started crying. After making sure Liam was sleeping, I went back to my son's family's home with the intention of obtaining their possessions. I still wanted to think that Ethan and his wife were real at that point. Did they actually leave the kids behind and travel overseas? It is not possible. Liam must have misinterpreted something. A vacation brochure that was on the table caught my attention as I was about to depart and packed the grandchildren's change of clothing into a bag. The words, "Elegant 2-week overseas cruise," were printed on the cover. I shook when I lifted it up. A single sheet of paper with our trip itinerary for the two of us peeled out from between its covers. Best wishes for a successful delivery trip. Surprisingly, it was said that the funding source was borrowed funds, with an elderly woman serving as a co-guarantor. I was enraged when I discovered they had taken a trip. It is inhumane to put my grandkids through this, and then carelessly take a holiday. I will never be able to forgive them, whether or not it is my son. I decided to severely punish them as a result. It was evident from looking over their travel itinerary that they were due back 3 days later. I got up and went to take care of stuff without thinking twice. 3 days later, Ethan and Isla turned the corner, looking triumphant, as I watched from the shadows outside their home. "Man, that was seriously fun," Ethan said as they dragged big luggage. Additionally, the meal was excellent. "It was incredible, without a doubt," Isla said. "I appreciate you taking me, Tom. I'm so beyond wanting to go back. Let's head out shortly again." They were talking as they turned the corner to the street where our house was, and they froze in disbelief. "Hi, what's happening over here? What took place?" Everything they owned had been hauled out and piled up in front of the home. "That's exactly what I said," I said. I emerged in front of the two of them, startled and in shock. "Were you happy with your trip?" I inquired. When Ethan spotted me, he appeared shocked. "Old hag, what the hell is going on? May I inquire if you found the trip abroad that exposed your kids to these kinds of situations enjoyable?" My son and daughter-in-law cringed at the sound of my harsh voice, but they quickly retaliated. "We told you not to approach our house, didn't we? Did you enter abruptly?" I exhaled. I would not have continued if I hadn't been unintentionally appointed a co-guarantor. I gave in when I saw that window open. Furthermore, I am the owner of this property. Is anything wrong? Subsequently, Isla appeared as though she had been shocked. "Wait a minute," interrupted the daughter-in-law. "The children are missing. Let's examine them." I said, "The kids are in the hospital right now. The hospital is taking good care of them." Their expressions suddenly showed astonishment when they heard my response. "You provided them with food and water, but not enough of either." They were out of supplies when I discovered them. Hospitalization was unavoidable because of their inadequate nutritional status. My son and daughter-in-law tried to say something, glaring at me, but I cut them off right away. I went on. "In addition, Ella has mastered the art of rolling over and has moved past Liam's grasp while wearing a chain. She might not have lived if I hadn't discovered her in time. Isla's embarrassed look was evident when I talked sharply to her, but Ethan gave me a hard time. It's all right, they're still alive in the end, but the house is the focus right now. What makes the possessions outside? I have no intention of letting you live here, who have committed such despicable acts, I then said. Please go. I've chosen to list this house for sale. My son and daughter-in-law were astonished to hear this and started berating me. You old hag, stop being so silly. Such despotism is not going to stand. Give the kids back the house. I turned to face my kid at that same time and remarked, Ethan, it appears I raised you incorrectly. It's really terrible that you can't work, that you burdened your parent by becoming a loan guarantor, and now this. You are no longer my son in my eyes. Ethan, who had stopped talking, cast a sidelong glance. I turned to face his wife this time. Isla, are you aware of the children's vulnerability? What on earth were you thinking, letting 5-year-old Liam look after your infant? You don't deserve the title of parents after causing such anguish to those children. My stinging remarks left the pair stunned, but my kid exploded with irrational rage. It doesn't concern me. Permit us to enter. I call this place home. I said calmly, well, even if there is a home, you won't be able to return for a while. At that moment, the son and daughter-in-law simultaneously cried out, What? Just then, the far-off cry of a police siren got closer. Have you reported us? If so, they've completed it already. I handled it earlier since the police told me to let them know when you got back after your kids were brought to the hospital, I stated matter-of-factly. I observed as my daughter-in-law's face became pale, and she started to shake without altering my attitude. Tom, how should we proceed? Will we be taken into custody? Dealing with the cops is more than I can handle. Ethan clutched to me happily at that time. Mom, please make everything right for us. Tell them we're not guilty. We'll perform better going forward, I swear. Please, Isla said. Please, I beg you. Her face smeared with mucus and tears. And so, with unflinching resolve, I made my decision. I refuse to pardon you. I cut all links to my family today. There is no denying the crime you have committed against your children. Think about it and offer an apology. The son and daughter-in-law mumbled as they sagged in their chairs. But a police vehicle pulled up just then. I detached myself from them and watched them being dragged away. Following their police interrogation, Ethan and Isla were found guilty. They spent a considerable amount of time in custody, and even when they were ultimately freed, they had nowhere to go. I filed for custody of my 2 grandkids through the judicial system. My son and daughter-in-law resisted, but in the end, I was able to challenge their actions and win. They currently reside in an unstable, dilapidated flat after moving far away. It's doubtful that they'll find steady work again after this occurrence, considering the media attention it received. Still, I have no compassion for them. However, I am parenting my 2 grandkids with all of my heart. Ella is at her cute period and has started talking. Liam assists with home tasks. Despite my hectic life, I feel that every day is meaningful because of my grandkids. I'll keep up my health maintenance and try my hardest for these